Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and of course, we are pulling them out today, guys. I have another amazing guest for you guys. You guys already know we are your number one podcast for normalizing conversation around death, dying, and grief, with all the messiness comes in between, with some amazing people who not only walk the walk, but they talk the talk, and they're out here doing some amazing things. I know I several lives this week, brother. I'm over here trying to do daily lives, so we are we're just rocking them out. My goal is to do one every day. But before we get into that, let me finish introducing my guests and everything. You guys know what to do. This is a live stream event, and so if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that that this is for educational purposes only. All right. So now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Nicki. Nicki, how you doing?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for letting me come on.
Of course, of course. And welcome back to the show. Guys, if you guys don't know, Nicki was on one of my very first ever podcasts that I did, which was Memories of Us podcast. And so now she's back on the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And we had an amazing time. You're in Japan right now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so guys, we're all over the place, right? We're all over the place. So now, before we get into your story, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Well, I'm Nikki. I live half my time in Amsterdam and half my time in Tokyo because I'm the founder of Tokiotours. And with Tokyo, I organize guided tours in Japan with local guides. So I just signed 32 new guides for Nagasaki. So yeah, we have guides all over Japan to help support tourists and travelers coming to Japan. Um, and I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she lives in Tokyo, and that's why I spend half my time in Tokyo to be able to be closer to her and to see her. And the rest of my time I'm in Amsterdam because I'm also working on two new startups. One is called North Star, and it's a Colombian company, and we are going to venture into real estate. So the sale of mansions, hotels, plots of lands in and around Medellin mostly. And other than that, I'm working on another startup that's called Elite Travel Experience. And with that, we plan on offering curated small scale group travel in Asia with private drivers and curated special experiences.
Yeah. Wow. I thought I was busy. I thought I was busy. You're out there making moves and everything else, but you know, you have an amazing journey too, right? You've overcome your own set of challenges while you were doing all of these things. I think the last time that we talked, you had all kinds of things going on with
Yes.
just traveling and dealing with an ex-husband, and the mental fortitude, the mental abuse, the traumas and things like that. Tell people about your journey, please.
Yeah, well, so I was 29 and I was on dating sites, and I met this Japanese guy. And back then I was just doing the dating kind of like a hobby. So if I saw someone with an interesting profile, I would have lunch with them, hear their story, and then never see them again. Before there were podcasts where you were able to do that. So I
Mhm.
thought, interesting. He's from Japan. I don't know anything about Japan. So he must have an interesting story. So he should be able to entertain me for an hour. So we hit it off, and he came on quite strong. He was like, "Ah, after 2 dates, here's the key to my house." And after 2 months, he was like, "Why don't you move in with me?" So I was like, "Ah, he has his own house. He has a good job. Maybe I should just say yes. So I did that. I moved in with him. I moved to Amsterdam. And then 5 years in, he was like, how would you feel about going to Japan for like 2, 3 years and then we'll go back? So I said, worst case scenario, I'll be unemployed for 2, 3 years and then I can come back to Amsterdam and I can pick up my job again. So it's going to be fine. So I said, yeah, sure. See if you can find a job. I'll come with you. I'll quit my own job. So I came to Japan. I didn't do a whole lot of research. Wish I should have done. So I came there and I had my bachelor's degree. English is not my native language, but I don't have trouble speaking it. So I thought, it's gonna be easy to find a job. But everywhere I went, it was like, oh, okay, so you're fluent in Japanese, right? And then it was not exactly. So then they were like, yeah, we'll call you, we'll call you. So after like 50 rejections, I was like, okay, this isn't working. I need to do something else. So I thought, I'll just learn Japanese. I'll go to school 9 to 5, and then after a year, I'm going to be fluent in Japanese. So I started doing that, and 1 year in, 2 years in, I still wasn't fluent in Japanese, and I was really fed up with everything. Like, I hate this country. I don't understand anything, and it's just so hard. So a friend of mine from the Netherlands came over, and she is a flight attendant for the Royal Dutch Airline.
Okay.
And she said, why don't you become a tour guide? I thought, a tour guide? How? She said, all you need to do is create a really simple website and have an email address, and then the rest will follow. So more kind of to rub it in her face, like, see, this didn't work out. I thought, well, I won't lose much, just a little bit of an effort if I do that. And then I can say, see, I tried it, it didn't work. So I did that. And then after 1 week, I got my first email from a client like, yeah, I see that you offer tours. I would like to tour with you. So I literally fell off my chair like, oh my God, someone wants to book a tour with me. I haven't prepared anything. So I had like a week to come up with an idea. So at first, I didn't know all that much. So sometimes people would be like, oh, there's a sign over there. Let's have a look. I'm like, no, let's keep going. Because what I thought was always completely accurate. But yeah, along the way, I started studying more and the history. And of course, I already knew a lot about Japanese culture, being married to a Japanese guy for so long. And then 3 months in, I got another email from a girl, and she said, "Yeah, I see you offer tours. Would you consider having as an employee?" And I said, "Huh? I've never considered that. I thought I would do the tours myself. But do I get this straight? So you're going to be working, and I'm going to be paid?" She said, "Yeah, that's how it works." So like, oh, that actually sounds really good. Yeah, of course she can come work for me. So she started working for me, and then a few months later, I became pregnant with my daughter, and it just started to get so hard because the subways, most of them have stairs, so just moving up and down the stairs, and pregnancy brain, I couldn't remember anything. So I thought, this isn't working. So I just started hiring more and more people and started to move more to the background to do all of the admin and planning and that kind of thing, and started to get other people to do the tours. And that went really well. And then in 2018, we were supposed to move back to Amsterdam because my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And I always told my husband, like, okay, so when our daughter is at the age that she goes to school, I want to be back in Amsterdam because schools in Japan, especially international schools, are so expensive. So I rather have her go to school in the Netherlands. So he said, "Yeah, sure, fine. I'll ask for transfer. I'll get someone else to take over my job. Why don't you go ahead, and then I'll come later after I've instructed this new guy how to do the job." So I said, "Yeah, okay, sure, that sounds good." So my mom was supposed to have only 3 months left to live, but it turned out that 3 months was actually 3 weeks. So 3 weeks in, she passed away, and basically my father had always been taking care of her. It was like a journey of 4 years before she got to that stage. So he was so caught up in the daily thing, taking care of her all the time, that when she passed, he was like completely heartbroken. He couldn't deal with things. So he's having panic attacks. And prior to that, both my mom and dad had a lot of anger over the fact that she was not going to make it. So who do that? They direct their anger towards me, of course. So yeah, it was a really hard time. First taking care of my mom, and then taking care of my dad, and trying to get his life back on track again. So then October comes around, and I'm going back to Japan because I was supposed to arrange the containers for all our stuff to go to Amsterdam. And I come to Japan, and my husband says, "Oh, actually, you guys can come back in November. The move is off." I'm like, "What do you mean the move is off? Our daughter is going to school in Amsterdam. We can't just not go. We're looking for apartments and everything. Of course, the move is not off." He said, "Oh, yeah, actually, it is because I hired this guy to take over my job, but I needed to do diligence. So I hired someone that turns out to be completely useless. And in Japan, you don't have a probation period. So once someone's hired, then you're stuck with them for perpetuity. So you
Yeah.
get rid of them." So he said, "Yeah, we're now caught up in a legal battle, and they're trying to get rid of this guy. And I don't have any budget to hire anyone else. So I can't leave. I need to still do this job." Uh, so I told him, like, "Well, I can't just pack up and leave and go back to Japan. So I need at least another year to get my father's life back on track, and also to get our daughter in school in Japan, because halfway through the year, it's impossible to find a spot at a decent school. And a lot of the schools are like 2 hours away from the city center of Tokyo, because the land is so expensive inside the city center. So I didn't want that for her. So give me a year to get her into good school, and then I'll move back." Um, so I did that. I basically slept in a broom closet for a year, in sharing a single bed with my daughter. So that was quite tough. And also, my father didn't live in Amsterdam. He lived like an hour and a half away. But we were supposed to live in Amsterdam. So every day I had to drive there an hour and a half and an hour and a half back to drop my daughter off at school, and then go back home, take care of my father. So yeah, that was a really tough year. And then the next summer in August, I was supposed to go back to Tokyo. So I was at the airport, and my dad said to me, "This is going to be the last time we'll ever see each other." So I told him, "Why are you being like this? Come on, I'm coming back at Christmas. Can we please not have a dramatic farewell, and can we just keep it nice?" He said, "No, no, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. This is the last time you're ever going to see me ever again." So I was like, "Okay, fine. If that's the way you want to be, I'll call you in a week or so, and hopefully you are in a better mood. But I really don't appreciate you being like this." So I said my goodbyes, and then in October, I got a phone call from my brother saying, "Oh, if you want to see your father, you have to book a ticket now because he's admitted to hospital and it's going really bad with him, and I don't think he will have long. So you need to come over now." So I booked the flight, and 5 minutes later, my brother calls again, and he's like, he already passed away. So if you're coming, then you can help with the funeral and help with the house, but you won't be able to say goodbye. So my father turned out to be right when he said I wasn't going to see him again. So my husband said, "I'm only going to give you 5 days because I won't be able to take care of our daughter for any longer than that. I need you back in Tokyo. So just get it done. I don't care. 5 days, that's it." So I went back to Netherlands with the terrible jet lag and trying to figure out the loss of my dad and taking care of everything, like the funeral and all the organizations you need to call, right? And like, he passed away, blah blah blah. So those 5 days just went in a haze. I hardly remember anything.
Right.
And then I had to rush back to Tokyo and take care of my husband and my daughter. So I was just kind of settling in and trying to get over the whole death of my father and my mother that passed away in like a time span of 1 year, and moving to Netherlands and then moving back. And then 2020 came around. It was supposed to be the best year ever, and then it turned out to be the worst year ever. And at first I was like, but the Olympics, they're not going to cancel the Olympics. Who cancels the Olympics? That's crazy. They've already put so much money into this. This COVID thing is going to blow over. It's going to be fine. But it didn't. So it just started raining cancellations, and the business basically went bankrupt. And since 2018, because I was supposed to go back to the Netherlands, I had acquired a business partner to help me run the business, because I thought, I'm going to be in the Netherlands forever, so I'm going to need someone local to help me. And she had a nervous breakdown because of the whole COVID thing and with all the cancellations. So I told her, why don't you just pull out the business completely? Let me handle everything. And if there's anything you need to know, I'll contact you. So then everything was back on my shoulders again. And 2020, so we were locked in. My husband was there all the time, and our marriage, with the year of separation, wasn't in a very good state. So he was just arguing the whole time, like, why did you do that? Why did you do this? Like, why didn't you buy this? And how come this? And so I just was so sick and tired of him. So I was like, I need to get rid of him. The sooner the better. So I kind of knew that he was doing some nefarious things and meeting up with other people, because he would be on the balcony smoking, and I would come around and he would be with his phone, and then he went like this whenever I came close. So I already knew, like, something's going on that's not right. So one night he came home drunk. I don't know how he managed, but he managed to find a place that served alcohol, would let him in. So he fell asleep like this. So I grabbed the phone and took pictures of everything that was incriminating. And the next morning I was sitting next to him and I was like, I don't know where you're going to sleep tonight, but it's not going to be here. So just grab your stuff and go. So I sent him away, and he said, well, if you won't allow me to live in the house with you, then I'm going to leave you with nothing, because I will need to spend extra money on a place to stay. And then I said, for like $500-$600, you can get share house. Yes, you're going to be in a single room with other people sharing a house, but it's not going to be that expensive. Or you can get a furnished apartment in the city center of Tokyo, and yes, that's going to cost money. So it's up to you whether you can uh, grin and bear it and live in a share house for a while and try to save as much money as possible, or whether you're like, just living la vida loca, and if you don't want me, then fine, I'm gonna spend all our money. So he chose the latter option, unfortunately. So when it was time for me to go back to Amsterdam, he had cleared out my business account for whatever was left on there, and the inheritance, everything was gone. And he said, "Why don't you just take one suitcase with you when you go back to Amsterdam for both you and our daughter who was coming with me initially? And then I'll send the rest later via um, mail. So just put all your belongings in boxes, write on there what's in there, and I'll send it to you." So I did that. And then as soon as I left, his girlfriend moved in and she was like, "Bonfire!" So she got from the boxes whatever she could use, and the rest she just threw out or burned or whatever. So I literally came back to Amsterdam with nothing. And 2 days before I was supposed to leave the house that I'm staying at now, we had rented it out. There was still people living in there. I gave them like 6 months notice, but they said, due to COVID, it's really hard to find a place. So we don't know how long it's going to take. So I told one of my brothers, I said, I might not have a place to stay. It's like 2 days, and then I'm going to Amsterdam, and I still don't know if I can go back in my own house. You have 3 empty bedrooms. Would it be possible for me and my daughter to stay with you guys for a bit? I don't know how long, like maybe a few days, maybe a week, maybe a month. And then, ah, no. Yeah, no, that's not gonna work. But I've always found you such a resourceful person, and our hearts and prayers go out to you. We wish you all the luck and good luck with everything. So yeah, that was like crazy stressful. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have anything, and I was moving back to Amsterdam, and I didn't have a place to stay. So fortunately, within those 2 days, I finally got the word like, "Oh, the renters are gone. You can pick up the key and you go back in the house." Because I got these images of me sleeping on a park bench and like, how am I gonna manage this? So that was just crazy. Um, and then my ex said, "I'm going to give you 2 months to come up with the mortgage independently. If you're not able to do that, I will put the house up for sale and you can go to this charity for single moms, and maybe they'll be able to offer you a stay." So I was applying for jobs like crazy because my business was, of course, still bankrupt because of COVID. And right before the deadline of 2 months, I managed to find something. So I started working, and my Japanese mother-in-law, she actually lives in the Netherlands. Um, so I contacted her and said, "Oh, I live in Amsterdam now, but the school that my daughter goes to is like right around the corner from where you live. It's like a 10-minute drive. And every day I need to take the highway, so it's so stressful. And the school is calling me every time, like, 'Where are you? Why aren't you here yet? You have to be here in 5 minutes. We're closing.' So can you maybe pick her up, and then she's there for like half an hour or something, and so I'll have more time to go and get her." And she said, "Are you serious right now?" I said, "Yes." do you expect me to help you? No, of course I'm not going to do that. You are a terrible person and a terrible mom, and the only reason you want to have this job is because you don't want to sit at home all day, and you don't even want to take care of your own daughter. So you're a terrible wife for leaving my son, and you're a terrible mom for not taking care of your daughter, and you're basically a terrible person. So I told her, so you think that your son is providing me with enough money that I don't need a job? No, I need to work crazy hours and also try to still put some attention in my own business to keep it going.
Mhm.
Uh, because he's not giving me enough to live off. He gives me like $250 every 3 weeks, and I need to pay everything from that. And like the first 2 months when I didn't have a job yet, like I would go grocery shopping and it would say insufficient funds. Please pay another way. And I just have to put the groceries to the side and say to my daughter, we're gonna do something fun tonight. We're gonna eat cereal for dinner. Yay! Or I would just say, I'm not really that hungry. Why don't you go and eat already and I'll eat when you go to sleep? So those first couple months were just heinous, trying to get through it all.
Yeah.
And then finally we got the divorce settled. But yeah, I got really screwed in the divorce because he saddled me with enormous debt. And in the divorce, it said that I was allowed to stay in this house as long as I would pay for all of the costs for the mortgage, maintenance, and everything. Um, but now he's suing me for the house. He's trying to kick me out because apparently there's some kind of law in the Netherlands that says if you don't have a date set when you're supposed to move out of the house, then after 3 years, the other partner can claim that the house needs to be sold and that the proceeds needs to be divided. But of course, I needed to restart my business in 2022 when the border with Japan opened up again. So I'm just a starting entrepreneur according to Dutch law, even though I've been in business for 12 and a half years already.
Mhm.
Um, and my ex-husband left me with so much debt. I have a terrible credit. So it's basically impossible for me now to get a mortgage or to rent a place because everywhere I go, they'll say like, "Oh yeah, you have a bad credit score, so we're not going to rent to you." But still, the Dutch court doesn't see it the same way. They're like, "Yeah, 3 years is 3 years, and you're going to get the proceeds of the house, and then just figure it out. It's not our problem." So yeah, that is definitely raising my anxiety levels. And in between, my daughter in 2022, initially she came with me to Amsterdam, but after a year, my ex came around to see her and he basically promised her golden mountains, like, come to Japan and I'll give you this and this and this. I'll take care of you. I'll do everything for you. And she was like, yeah, 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 I want to do it. And like right before he came, she was basically crying every day because she was feeling so miserable trying to process the whole divorce and everything that had happened to her as well in the past few years, just moving to Netherlands, back to Tokyo, and her grandparents dying, and like uh, divorce, my husband having another girlfriend, so all of that. So she had magical thinking at the time. She thought, as long as I move back to Tokyo, all the pieces are going to fall into place. I'm going to be happy again. So she was really keen on going back to Tokyo, and I was just hanging on. I was in such a bad state mentally, emotionally, physically, that I thought, well, maybe it's good if she's in Tokyo for a while, then she can figure things out whether she wants to stay there or come back to Amsterdam. And then I have some time to put my life back on track. But now that she's in Tokyo, it's not so easy to get her to come back. So unless she's like abused or something, it's almost impossible to get her to come and live with me again, because the Dutch uh, judge is going to say I don't have any jurisdiction in Japan, and as long as there's no significant reason why she should come back to Amsterdam, I don't see any reason to change her situation. So yeah, I'm just from all sides being attacked. The only good part is that since the border with Japan opened up, um, everyone started to travel to Japan. So my business is booming. Tokiotours is doing amazing. Uh, we do like hundreds of tours every month, so it's really nice. So I don't have to do anything else other than run my business. But yeah, personally, it hasn't gone very smoothly.
Yeah.
So I wish my private life would go as well as my business is going right now, because it feels like it's a burning trash pile, and the end is not yet in sight. So every time I think, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel, things are going better, then the roof collapses and the light is just throwing a monkey wrench into the works, and like, now you thought you were done? No, look what we have for you. So yeah.
Oh my, I can definitely understand that, right? Um, I've just gotten to a point where I can accept life on life's terms. Do I like it? No, because sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't understand it, but I get it. There's a certain truth with life that um, that's undeniable. Like life
Mhm.
is not fair or unfair, but it's truthful. It's saying that hey, you can go out here, you can do these things, but you're gonna have to. For one, you're gonna have to work at it, and two, I'm going to challenge you. You may not like it, but I'm still going to do it anyway. Now, you do have a choice about how you navigate that, right?
Mhm.
And and Nikki, you've been navigating, every swing and every punch, and having your daughter in one place and you being in another place, and then your ex. I mean, this it's like it's like a romance novel,
Oh yes, oh my god,
right?
it's
That's
crazy.
what it's like a romance novel, and it's funny that that term even came to my head because I was just talking with someone yesterday on a podcast, and she is actually the author of a few romance novels, and I
Mm.
was like, and it's a phrase that I've been using the last couple of weeks whenever I talk to people, like, hey, this is your life. And and so make sure that you write the best romance novel that you can ever be. Funny,
Mm.
it's around full circle, and that I'm actually saying it again, like this is a real life romance novel. Like you got your ups and downs, you got the twists and turns, you got the just everything. It just seems. But are you writing yourself a good ending? Right? Are you writing yourself a happy ending? It seems like you are, but oh my god, that is what. I guess my next question would be, or my first question would be, how does one navigate the mental stress that comes along with not one, but the several different things that are happening, like your ex is trying to take back the home, the divorce, the separation from your child, the ups and downs with your business, although the business is going pretty. How does one, Nikki, navigate that, right? When it seems like so much is against you.
Well, I'm not saying it's the right way, but I basically put everything into boxes and stored it into the back of my head. Like, I'm not gonna focus on that right now. So next month I'm supposed to start some different kind of therapy that is geared towards recognizing emotions and letting them in, because ever since my father passed away, I'm unable to experience sadness. So I can watch a sad movie, or I can be undergoing a sad situation, and I can understand, like, okay, this is sad, so you're supposed to feel like this, but I cannot really get to that emotion anymore. I just completely locked myself up.
Yeah, yeah.
And because I also did PTSD therapy, because I've been sexually abused several times growing up,
Mhm.
and I've been raped several times. So yeah, there were some things that I needed to deal with, but halfway through the therapy, I just couldn't. I just ran out, because they were constantly asking, so what is going on? What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? How are you feeling? And especially the trying to, because I was just basically giving answers that I thought they wanted to hear, because it was so hard for me to go through those experiences again and trying to feel those emotions and trying to live through it, that I was just saying the first thing that came to my mind, like, oh yeah, I'm angry, oh, I'm sad, but I wasn't actually feeling it. I just couldn't. And then when they were pressuring me so much, like, yeah, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, I just broke down. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore, please leave me alone. So that's when we decided, like, oh, okay, maybe PTSD isn't good for you right now. Maybe you first need to focus on recognizing your emotions and trying to let them in, and trying to go through all of that instead of locking yourself down. Uh, which obviously at the time was very helpful, but now I wish I could undo it and just break the chains and let everything in again.
Yeah. We got a couple comments over here. Taming Your Grief on Instagram said resilience. And also compartmentalization, which from listening to you, there was a lot of that, right? But and a lot of not wanting to deal with the things that were coming along with, and stepping maybe into the wrong treatment at the maybe the right treatment, but at the wrong time. Like timing
Yeah.
is everything when it comes down to that. And Tammy Brief also says, invite you to be your authentic self. The answer is within you with the right guy. Same thing what we were just talking about. Yes, you're absolutely right, my friend. And always, thank you for that. Anybody else have any thoughts on this right here, right? Because, and I know if you're someone out there who has dealing with something like this, with sexual abuse, rape, I got to be careful about how I say things. We don't want to be dinged, okay? So with sexual abuse, let's just put it that way, and all of the things that are coming along with that, right? What are your thoughts, guys? What are your thoughts on that, right? Have you ever experienced anything like that, right? If so, what was some of the steps that you took in order to get yourself to where you are today, whether it be therapy, journaling, being open, or maybe you haven't, maybe you pushed it down, right? And you're right, Tammy, you agree. The body does keep score, and I think Nicki can agree with that, right? What are your
Oh
thoughts on
yeah.
that? Does the body keep score?
Oh yeah, I have lots of psychosomatic conditions. Like my shoulders and neck are like constantly locked, and I'm always having a stomach ache because I'm keeping everything in.
Mhm.
But I had to be strong for so long and not give in and not let people take me down, that now I don't know how to be vulnerable anymore. And I'm just I'm still in trouble with the court case. I might be homeless in a couple of months. So I can't allow myself to fall to pieces and to let in all these emotions because I'm scared of what will happen. That there will be nothing left. I won't be able to get up again and face whatever challenges come my way. So yeah, that's one of my fears.
Um, whew, that is a lot. I got another comment over here, and Tamir said for them, one aspect was forgiveness, self and other, for more of my own journey to peace. I think that's a lot of it, right? That's a good step to be in. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. One of the things that you said though, and when I make this statement, it's a deep statement. It's definitely a deep statement. But the question would be, don't you ever get tired of being strong?
Yeah, so I've been dating since I got back to from Japan, but I don't know what it is. But if I meet people, they're either have narcissistic tendencies or they have uh, issues in terms of commitment and in terms of being open and able to have a relationship. So yeah, it's been such a struggle trying to meet someone nice who doesn't want to take advantage of you in any way, or who isn't like overly impressed with who I am and what I represent, or they feel like, oh, it's too much drama, never mind. So yeah, I mean, I'm here all alone. I cut my family out of my life because of toxicity, and both my parents passed away. So my daughter is in Japan, so I'm basically all by myself with fortunately a couple of good friends to support me. But yeah, trying to build any semblance of a love life has proven to be impossible.
Well, I want to put this comment up here because it's a definitely big compliment to you. Tamir Grief said that's a lot, but look at you, startups, kids, etc. You're doing your thing, and I think that's a huge compliment. Thank you for that as well. But
Yeah.
I want to say this, but I want to be respectful when I say this, and things like that. And maybe this is just my own thoughts or something like that. But the question would be, you ever just think about just taking some time to yourself, to just reflect and wait till this thing that you're going through, it kind of dissipates, and then you can have the freedom to be able to explore such things. And the reason being, because healing does take time,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
And again, when I say this, I'm speaking from my perspective. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to want to get your thoughts on there, and maybe I need to learn something as well. But for the longest time, I kept making bad mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was aware of these bad mistakes, but it still didn't stop me from doing it. Until a couple of years back, I said, I don't think I want to do this anymore, because I realized, one, I was damaged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Two, I hadn't healed.
Yeah.
And when you don't heal your trauma, here's a quote that was said: when grown people do not heal their trauma, the people that they end up with end up becoming their parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so now, going back to a few steps, you know, being patient with individuals, and just kind of take your steps that you need for you, and then kind of like spilling life out on Nicki's terms. You know what I'm saying? And everyone else. 10-year grief says no mistakes, only learning. You're absolutely right.
Mm.
And it all depends. when I speak about mine, I have to speak a certain truth in myself to hold myself accountable. So I do not keep making those same choices over and over and over again. Now you would think after like the 50th or 60th time I would learn. But as they say, self-inflicted wounds are the worst ones. And what's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same things over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Expecting different results. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was I'm in the dictionary with it. You look in there, you're gonna see my face right beside it. Like, yep, there's Tony. Yep, I'm the total definition of that. And so when I speak about that, it's because I've made those fair share choices, and I rushed the process without dealing with my own stuff.
Mm.
And what I've done, and I refuse to do this anymore. So, and a lot of people that talk to me may often wonder why I keep people behind a barrier. Um, is because one, I like to keep myself safe.
Yes.
Two, respect, not just for myself, but for the other individual, right? Taking the time to see if this is going to be a good fit. Because not everybody needs to be a good fit in your life. Not everybody has the best intentions for you, right? And so taking those necessary steps to learn how to have grace and patience and forgiveness uh,
Mm.
and reflection on one's life,
Yes.
right? I'll get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always tell people I have two gears, 0 or 100. I don't do anything halfway. So if I give myself to something or someone, I just go all in. And I've noticed that doesn't always work out well because people get overwhelmed by my enthusiasm. I mean, it helps me a lot in a business sense that I work my ass off and do whatever it takes to uh, get things off the ground and get going. But with friends and prospective lovers or partners, it's sometimes a bit difficult. So I'm trying to lower my expectations of people just because I go full in. I shouldn't expect them to do the same.
Mm,
Uh, Also, because of the whole trauma thing since 2018 with my parents dying and the divorce and everything, um, I became quite reactive. And whenever someone challenged me or did something I didn't like or was something going on, I immediately wanted to jump in and say something or do something. And
mm,
now I'm trying to take a step back, like, don't go and send that text message. Just make a note of it. And if tomorrow you still feel like you want to send it exactly like you wrote it, then there's still the chance. But most likely you will feel differently. So, yeah, don't pick up the phone. Don't make that phone call. Don't go arguing with people. Just take a minute for yourself, even when you're face to face with people, and say, I'm going to think about this. I'll get back to you. And don't just jump in and let them trigger you into saying or doing things that you might regret. But yeah, it's still a process. So sometimes I manage, sometimes I don't. But yeah, that's definitely something I'm working on.
well, there's a term when you were saying that because I know there's a lot of people out there that do this thing and maybe not understanding what it is. And I'm glad that you said that because it's easy to have an emotional reaction to things, right? Especially in the heat of the moment. But when you're dealing with PTSD,
Mhm.
post traumatic stress or post traumatic trauma is real, right? There is a defensive trauma response that comes along with that, and sometimes people don't recognize it, and because as you mentioned, and I want to point this out, when you push things down inside for so long, um, we tend to react in those moments as a way of keeping ourselves safe from
Yes.
an unexpected outcome, so to
Mhm.
speak, right? No one likes to be blindsided. So it's like I have to dictate the next move. And if
Yeah.
that means that I have to be defensive with you, I would rather hurt you before I allow you to hurt me. Like,
Mhm.
I know because I've been there before. We got another comment over here from Taming Your Grief on IG over here. Thank you again. Um, ATA, great technique. Thanks for the reminder on thinking to tell tomorrow. So that was in reflection of what you had said earlier. Like instead of doing it right now, I'm going to take some time, and then tomorrow, if I still feel the same way, then I'm saying that may change. A lot of times, I'm saying there's a 50-50 chance when you're going to do it, and you look at the situation and go, yeah, it's not even worth it, right? And I guess, and again, when I say this, I'm speaking from my own perspective. Is that I I don't think I've ever been defensive with people. My my answer to a lot of things, but I had two ways of doing this, and depending on who they were to me, like with women, I was just silent. I said, you know what? I'm not going to respond to this, which I learned a little bit later that silence is the worst thing that you can ever do because
Mhm.
there's no words to go upon. But what just like you said, Nikki, like if I see, I learned, and it is confusing. It's very confusing, right? Because I found that when I said something, they would come back with that defensiveness, right? And
Mhm.
then it would turn into something really, really ugly. And I don't like that. I'm like, no. So I learned how to keep my mouth shut. And then it left, it left for a lot of assumptions. Like, oh, you're just not going to say anything? I'm like, I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to answer this, right? So this is confusing. If I say anything, it's going to lead to this. But if I don't say anything, it's going to lead to this. And so I just realized that maybe that wasn't for me. And then the second time, if you was a guy, well, I'm going to punch you in the mouth, right?
Yes.
But see, these are my responses back to those things back in the day. Like, really, boom, punch them in their mouth, because that was that. Like, and again, it depended on what was being said and who I was talking to at that moment, right? You know what I'm saying? So, women, my mother always told me, you don't hit women. With men, okay, I'm just going to punch you in the throat, right? So I'm going to punch you in the mouth. We're going to figure it out. I realized on both ends that maybe that's not the best way to do things, which is okay. It's totally fine. So I just had to learn a few different other techniques and things like that. But that defensive trauma response can be that can be very dangerous in a lot of ways because I've seen people have a defensive trauma response and pretty much go do drugs or drink till they're
Mhm.
drunk, make some really piss poor decisions
Oh
along,
God, yes.
right? Which can lead to a lot of other compacted trauma and grief.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, fortunately, I don't have addictive personality type. Have done a DNA test when I was in Japan with Circle DNA, and with them, it's all medical because I was adopted as a baby. I spent 1 year in an orphanage. I didn't really know that much about my biological family. So I figured, well, maybe it's time for me to get things straight. Like, what can I expect? There's already so much coming at me. I want clarity. I want to know what I might need to deal with later on in life. So I did the DNA test and turned out that I'm clear for any genetic diseases. And I don't have an addictive personality type. So before that, I was always really scared to get drunk and to use drugs, even though I'm from the Netherlands. So I never tried any of that because I heard some stories that might be some people in my family that had struggled with that. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll have that too if I turn that way. So after I got the DNA test, that was the first time I ever got drunk in my life. And it turns out that I have some kind of superpower. I can metabolize alcohol really well, so I can get completely shit faced and I won't have a hangover the next day.
Mm,
But fortunately, since I don't have the addictive personality type, I rarely ever drink. I don't really feel the urge to do it. But yeah, I do go into uh, freeze, fight, or flight mode. So I become responsive, too responsive to certain people and let them get to me. Or I totally freeze and I procrastinate completely and I'm not able to anything done. Or I fight and I go to bat and I'm like, I'm going to gouge your eyes out before I let you get to me. So
mm.
yeah, that I wish I could finally get calmer and not have those triggers anymore.
Understood. Okay. Well, that's perfect that you said that because we have a comment on LinkedIn and kind of really just segue into what you were just saying. So
Mhm.
I, just like everyone else, I am curious to see what triggers are still a work in progress.
Well, neglect and abandonment are still an issue since I was adopted and basically raised by a narcissist who liked me up until the point I no longer fit on her lap. And then she just locked me in my room and I had to be out of the way and just ignored completely. Um, so yeah, that is a big thing for me.
That makes sense.
Injustice is also a big thing. So if I feel things are not balanced, or if I feel someone is doing me wrong somehow, I can get very upset over that. And I hate it when people lie to me. So if I get even the slightest idea that someone is not being truthful with me, I blow up completely. I'm like, go crazy.
Honestly, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, it's crazy because I think so many people do that and they aren't aware of it, right? You know what I'm saying? And now I'm going to speak to on my own personal experience. Just recently, a few weeks back, there was someone who blew up on me, and I really had to just step back and look at them and go, what's wrong, right? What? I get it, right? And once I was able to sit down with them, I got them to calm down. They began to say all of these different things. And I looked at them and go, I'm not quite sure where you got that from, but those words never came out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't, no. Let's think about what I actually said. And then let's think about how you added in 10 other things to get the response that see, you were looking for a reason
Yes.
to be defensive with me, to try to pick in the fight or an argument with me. And
Yeah.
when I did not entertain the idea of it, you assume something different.
Yeah.
So in all actuality, you created your own movie. And I
Uh-huh.
thought it was interesting because at no point in this did I sign up to be the villain in your story,
Mm-hmm.
right? But do you find that sometimes you do that and it's easier? And this goes for anyone. So this question goes out to anyone out there. Do you find that it's easier for an individual to create the villain in your story to
Oh, yeah.
justify you being a superhero in your own story?
No, I don't consider myself a superhero. Actually, more the opposite. I still have terrible imposter syndrome.
Oh,
But
oh, okay.
I can relate to the fact that you create your own narrative. And
Mhm.
even when I'm texting with someone, then in my mind, I believe they wrote X, Y, and Z. And then the next day when I read it back, I'm like, oh, it's actually not the way I thought it was. I thought they sent me something horrible, and come to think of it, maybe you can also see it in another light. But I get so triggered at that point that I just blow it up and see it as something entirely different than what it really is.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the moments when it's good to take a step back. And also, 9 times out of 10, when you argue about something or you get mad about something, it's not about the actual thing, but there's something underneath. There's like fear or pain or abandonment or neglect or any of that stuff. So it is a good idea to try. I mean, in the moment, your amygdala, your reptile brain is being activated, so it's hard. But to take a second, like, why am I feeling this triggered? Why am I responding in this way, rather than jumping in and just attacking and just going in for the kill, so to
Right.
speak.
Which leads to this next question, and I'm glad that you said that because um, I find this interesting. So, if emotional regulation is still challenging, what has worked in the past to find peace? What strategies have you been shown to deal with these sense of overwhelming emotions, or that you have been shown?
Yeah.
So yeah. Let us. What do you think about that? And so, what are some strategies? Because I love the way this is unfolding because of the simple fact of I was thinking the same thing.
Ah,
How
good.
how do you think about that? How do you deal with this, Nikki?
Well, basically, when my ex-husband took my daughter with him to Tokyo, I'd also just lost my job. My cat had just died, so I was really clinging on, and basically I had this huge identity crisis. I was thinking, like, I'm no longer a daughter because my parents passed away. I'm no longer a business owner because my business went bankrupt. I feel like I'm no longer a mother. I'm sure the girlfriend is going to take over, and my daughter is never want to talk to me ever again because she has her life in Tokyo and she won't need me anymore. My cat is dead. I'm no longer an employee. I'm basically nothing. What is left for me? So at that point, I was really actually suicidal. And fortunately, a friend of mine just managed to barge into my house and bring me to the PG, and get me an indication to get therapy. And that basically saved my life. So I started off with emotional regulation therapy, and there I learned that there's basically 5 stages that you go through your emotions. So up until stage 3, it's kind of like still you're in control, you're still able to regulate yourself, and you're still able to think clearly. But once you go to 4 or 5, then you're out of control and it's really hard to rein yourself in. And
Mhm.
they said because of all the trauma, you probably wake up at a level 3. You're not at a level 1. So to go from a level 3 to a level 5 is like a very small step. So for you, it's much harder to rein in your emotions, to not be reactive, and to not go down this spiral. Like what I always did was I would have an intrusive thought, and then it just go like, and then I would be in bed for days because I wasn't able to um, get myself out of this spiral. But yeah, the therapy has really helped. I've also started doing yoga. I started drawing. I started Zazen meditation. And I recently got some really good advice. Someone told me, your thoughts aren't you. So why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts a name? And when you hear that voice in your head, you're not good enough, no one's going to love you, you're terrible, you're a bad mom, you can't even do anything, and you can't get going, like today is another bad day, like, oh, all those thoughts, just give them a name and tell them to shut up. So that person said, I call my thoughts Becky. So I said, "Ah, Becky is a good name." So whenever I hear that voice, like, then, Becky, just shut up right now. We're not going there. And I refuse to go down this road with you, and try to do some breathing exercises or go for a walk or listen to some nice music to pull yourself again, not let yourself be dragged away by these overwhelming emotions.
Mm, I love that. I love that. Um, and so now with that being said, first I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for coming back on the show and allow me to have saying a conversation like we should have had the first time, and to just be able to go into dialogue, to dive deeper into Nicki's world, and have you just share this journey with us of just resilience and understanding, and being able to help other people out there as well that may be going through something similar, right? And it's crazy. And so now, with that being said, I have another question for you. How
Yeah.
can people find you?
Oh, well, you can find me under Tokiotours on any social media network. So that's Tokyo spelled the Dutch way, so not with a Y, but with the I. So Tikiotours. And you can find me on my website, www.tokyotours.nl. And I also have a personal Instagram account. It's called Nicki, NICKI _Amsterdam.
I love that. And for everyone out there that have been tuning in, please go and check her out. Her information is in the YouTube channel, is in the description. If you're going over to Tokyo, book a tour with her. Go meet Nicki. As you guys can see, she's a very beautiful, wonderful, amazing individual, and she's just out here doing her thing. And I'm pretty sure she'd be happy to see somebody like, I saw you on Tony's podcast, right? Go over there and support her, man. Support her, and recommend other people to go over there and do it, right? Who doesn't want to go to Japan and have the experience of a lifetime to be able to go to some different places? So now my second question, Nicki, would be, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Well, like the alcohol thing. And other than that, yeah, I'm very resilient. So I can take a lot of crap, and I can take on a lot of horrible things, and just still find the strength to keep going. I always have a very positive outlook on life, and I am fortunately at a point where I'm able to forgive myself for when I'm not perfect, or when there's days that just doesn't seem to go right, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with doing a bit less occasionally. But yeah, just stay positive, keep going, keep at it. Um, those are the ways that you can propel yourself forward. And feeling sorry for yourself has never helped anyone. Of course, you can always take some time for yourself. It's okay to feel shitty occasionally, but then you need to pick yourself up and go at it again, and keep being consistent, and keep working at it, because otherwise there's probably no one out there that's going to give a shit. So you are the one that needs to take charge of your own life. You need to be the one that keeps forging forward, um, and do your thing.
I love that. I love that. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Greek Let's Talk About It podcast, guys. Thank you for always allow me to bring these conversations to you guys. Thank you for your support and all, from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys for coming in and participating, ask the questions, being a part of these journeys, but also being curious enough to ask those questions, right? And getting the answers. So, and with that being said, if you guys have not already, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, if you're one of those people that's just trying to promote your services and things like that, and you're just going to come to the channel just to subscribe to unsubscribe, save yourself the trouble. Don't do it, right? You know what I'm saying? You guys mess this up. You guys mess up the algorithm. But most importantly, if you know someone who could benefit from these conversations that we have, please share it along with them. These are resources. Now, these are people out here doing some amazing things. The podcast is there for you to help understand where these people come from, but also know that there's help out there for you from people who not only talk the talk, but they have walked the walk and out here doing some amazing things. All right. And with that being said, Nicki, again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to be able to share your story with the audience, your knowledge, your wisdom, but your resilience, courage, and the steps that you've taken to get to where you are today. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We're going to see you guys tomorrow. I got 3 more coming tomorrow. So if you get a chance to tune in, I'll be putting up some notifications for it if you don't already have them. And we're going to make it happen, right? We're going to definitely make it happen. And you guys enjoy your day. Love you. Remember to tell the people that you that are in your life that you love and care for them, because you never know. Tomorrow may never come. All
Exactly.
right?
And one small favor, just a selfie with you for my followers. Let me see if I can get you in. Yay. Okay, great. Thank you.
I felt like a celebrity at that time, guys. I was all like, peace.
Yeah, exactly. Woo.
I was all like, peace. Guys, we're going to wrap this one up, guys. And hold on real quick, Nicki. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, guys. We're going to see you guys in the next one. All right? Peace.